right? Um, if I just talk about each of them briefly, so Drake, this teenage actor from Toronto, because that's like a bastion of hip hop, who's biracial. So no one took seriously. A lot of people still make fun of him for his Degrassi days, which he's completely owned. And now he's Drake. Then you have Kanye, this very smart kid that grew up in the neighborhood I live in now, South Shore neighborhood of Chicago. Mother is a professor, an educator. He's goes to art school. And even when he does, get into music, it's like, you're a producer. Stick with being a producer. And now he's Kanye West. So very non-traditional, like, I'm a gangster, I sell drugs, I come from the streets. Neither one of them.
No, they don't fit that at all.
No, and this is the feud. This is the feud that everyone's talking about. So I just think that's hilarious. Welcome, everybody, back to Hip Hop Scriptures. I am your co-host, Chi, founder of Hip Hop Scriptures.
And I'm your other co-host, Priscilla, and I run the Fresh Artist Friday blog series.
Yes. So today we're going to do something a little different. I know most of you have seen our Fresh Artist Fridays wrap up that we've done, just kind of going through all the artists that we covered that month. But today, we're going to talk about something I know you're not sick of hearing about, which is CLB, Certified Lover Boy by Drake versus Donda. Any initial thoughts, just generally about the whole CLB versus Donda?
First of all, this feud has been going on for so long. Like, the feud exists far outside of these albums, and it probably will exist far after these albums.
Yeah.
But I did think it was interesting that these were the two albums put against each other. I think timing had a lot to do with that, because if you've listened to both of them, they're kind of hard to compare. They shine in different ways. And I don't think they're a perfect example of like the Drake versus Kanye argument, but it's still super interesting to look at them considering how close together they were released.
This is like a real superhero, supervillain. There's all types of origin stories. I mean, just Drake on his own, Kanye on his own, right? If I just talk about each of them briefly, so Drake, this teenage actor from Toronto, because that's like a bastion of hip hop, who's biracial. So no one took seriously. A lot of people still make fun of him for his Degrassi days, which he's completely owned. And now he's Drake. Then you have Kanye, this very smart kid that grew up in the neighborhood I live in now, South Shore neighborhood of Chicago. Mother is a professor, an educator. He's goes to art school. And even when he does, get into music, it's like, you're a producer. Stick with being a producer. And now he's Kanye West. So very non-traditional, like, I'm a gangster, I sell drugs, I come from the streets. Neither one of them.
No, they don't fit that at all.
No, and this is the feud. This is the feud that everyone's talking about. So I just think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. I had that thought earlier when I re-listened to both albums getting ready for this taping. I'm like, it really makes no sense to compare them. And then the fact that Drake has said out of his own mouth that Kanye is his favorite artist as recently as a few years ago. I don't know if that's still the case. And that there would be no Drake if it wasn't for Kanye, specifically 808's and Heartbreak's album. So I know that inspired a lot of folks, and T-Pain had a big, big part in that. So shout out to T-Pain. But let's start with Certified Lover Boy. Let's just get your thoughts, and then I'll give you my thoughts, and then we can flip over to Donda.
So this was a very interesting, but not very interesting album to me, if that makes sense. The concept was interesting, Drake talking about being a certified lover boy, and like, this was an album to me that had the potential for a lot of growth from Drake, especially considering his last two albums and all the mixtapes in between, which were like kind of hit and miss, at least for me. And there's some songs in this album that I really do love that I know I will continue to listen to years from now. But the album as a whole didn't get my attention the way I thought it would. There was no like continuous story, there was no continuous growth in it for me. I feel like I can listen to it in any order and pick out a few songs that I'll remember like from a while from now. But as a body of art, as a body of work, it has its definitely high and lows, at least for me. And actually Donda does too, but different kinds of highs and lows. But CLB was a roller coaster ride the whole way through.
What were the standouts for you?
Some of the sampling in both albums was really cool. I love the 3 6 Mafia sample that Drake had. Of course, the Way Too Sexy song, very memorable, awesome sample. I know a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people thought it was a huge meme or that it wasn't a very serious song, but like that's an Instagram song, 100%. Like if Drake was to get a TikTok, that's a TikTok song. It's a very social media centered song and a breath of fresh air for the album overall.
Nice.
Another standout song for me was Fountains featuring Thames. It has that like Afrobeat dance hall vibe to it, which I think Drake is pretty good at.
Yeah.
In his Views album, again, we had a couple songs that had that kind of beat. Kind of out of place on the album overall, again, that like up and down that I was talking about, but a great standalone song as well. And I know we were talking about going over the features of both albums.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the songs were made of like either they were made by the feature or the feature wasn't utilized well enough.
Yep.
What were some of your thoughts on the features? And then I'll share some of mine.
Okay, well, the features, I thought, it's like these albums are still pretty new, so there's stuff I need to revisit. But In the Bible, first of all, the song is called In the Bible. And it features Lil Durk, one of the hottest Chicago rappers. So even before I listened to the song, I'm like, this is a shot at Kanye or something.
Yeah.
Because in the Bible, really? So I actually thought it was a great use of feature with Lil Durk. I thought the song flowed perfectly. I really enjoyed it. So it got a little weird for me on the feature with Jay-Z, and maybe because I heard Donda first, because when I heard Jail, it was the second listening party in Atlanta, and I was like, holy crap, like Jay-Z is rapping about God and he sounds passionate about it. And, there's always been some questions around like what he believes in and, his religious values or whatever. So I was like, I've never heard Jay-Z like this. So to then flip to the Love All song, Drake was actually really good on that song. He was like where he's supposed to be. And then Jay-Z comes in with all these gangster references and, I could have you like blatantly, subtly in certain lines, like I could have someone come get you or like wipe you off the face of the earth. And I'm just like, what's going on?
It was a weird, like kind of diss track, but not really. Yeah.
Who's coming after you? Like, what's going on? Did you just celebrate 44? Like, okay. I was just like kerfuffled. I don't know. I loved, it was just like instant hit, instant classic, Fair Trade with Travis Scott. No brainer.
I agree.
The Way Too Sexy. So I have thoughts on that. I think he purposely made it a meme. I did not like the song. I didn't hate the song, but I didn't like the song the first couple times I heard it. It's still not one of my favorite songs, but I hear it differently because of the visual. And to be honest, I see influences in ways that some people don't see or they disagree with. So you're fine to disagree if you're watching. I feel like the video was inspired by the Famous video that Kanye did, where he had all the celebrities in the bed. I just feel like that's where the creative, at least some of the creative inspiration came from. And then, he had Future and Migos doing Boys to Men. I thought that was hilarious. Was there anyone else? Funny enough, I was like, who is this woman? Yeba.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why Drake's name is on there unless he wrote the lyrics. It's just her voice.
It is just her. It's like it serves more as an interlude than anything.
Yeah, I could just take that song and put it on a different playlist. I have so many playlists. So that song could have just been Yeba, and that would go on one of my, chill playlists. I'm not sure, like you said, how it fit between the songs. It's between.
That's a good example of what I was talking about before, where I like a lot of the songs, but the work as a whole, it feels very like chip chopped and not very put together.
Yeah. And okay, let me just say. So I'm one of those people over the years, I've gotten used to Drake singing, but I was a big Drake fan. A close friend put me on to him back in 2009. I was like, who? Because I was just listening to J. Cole. I'm like, no, you need to listen to J. Cole. And they're like, no, you need to listen to Drake. So we traded our favorites. And I really didn't like when he would sing. I'm like, just rap. But the song Pipe Down, I equally enjoyed his rapping and his singing. That was one of my favorites. I stayed up until the album was released. I actually went to sleep, y'all. And then I set an alarm. And then I got up and then I listened to Certified Lover Boy. But Pipe Down, I think that's one of the best examples throughout his whole body of work where I equally enjoyed the singing and the rapping.
I agree. That was an interesting song. It was cool to see Drake get both his rapping and singing skills some time to shine. Because now that you say that, I kind of agree. I definitely prefer Drake as a rapper more than a singer. And the album, Certified Lover Boy, I would hope it would be a softer album for him. Yeah. And that was a good example of a place where he did deliver on that.
I did not enjoy the Future feature on In Too Deep. And not because Future did anything wrong. I actually like the fact that there's at least a couple songs, including Way Too Sexy, where Future and Drake are back together because I like them working together.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, I just feel like that was like a late, maybe guys will disagree. I was like, this is like if I'm late at night driving, then I would put this on. And it's like not raining, but it's dark.
It's very specific.
Like, it's misty in the air. That's when I would want to like turn that song all the way up in the car.
I see that.
Perfect use of, to your point about features, perfect use of features on You Only Live Twice with, everyone knows I love Lil Wayne and Rick Ross.
Yeah, that one too. That's a fun song to rap in the car too. To learn how to...
And the other one was Project Pat. I'm curious to know your thoughts. I thought it was a strong track. I'm not like, oh my God, it's the best song on the album, but I thought it was a strong track and it was a good use of an older act that a lot of people aren't talking about.
I agree, yeah. One of the features that fell through for me was the Ty Dolla $ign feature. Just because I usually love Ty Dolla $ign. I feel like he's known for being the artist that fits into anything.
Usually elevates a track.
Exactly. Usually, although he's branded as an artist that can fit into anything and overused or whatever, I felt like I would have liked to hear more of him. I think his song was Get Along Better. I would have liked to hear more of him in that. He was just towards the end and like it was not memorable for me at all, which is disappointing considering how much he has one of those voices that like you hear and you're like, yeah, there you go, Ty Dolla $ign.
Yeah. Any other standout tracks? Oh, I was pissed off. I gotta say this. I heard that Nicki Minaj was gonna be on the album.
Oh.
What a waste.
What a waste. I agree.
First of all, she's not rapping. And the song wasn't that was a throwaway track. You could literally just take, other than the title being cute, you could just take Poppy's Home off the album.
I totally agree.
I mean, the other 19 or 20 tracks, like that was a whole throwaway track to me.
I agree. And there were a few tracks on here that I'm like, both albums, CLB and Donda, I felt were too long and almost directionless at some point. And unfortunately, I was so excited for that Nicki rumor and it fell through. That is one of those tracks.
I'm looking like, okay, she's talking on this song. Mind you, it's like 1 in the morning here in Chicago at this point, maybe closer to 1:15. And I'm like, all right, she's talking on here. So that must mean she's somewhere else. So I'm looking at the track list while I'm listening. I'm like, no, that was it. That was the Nick. Okay. No.
No. A waste.
Are there any other features? Oh, one thing I want to point out, because I was like, who the heck is Yeba? She was, at least for me and probably most hip hop fans, we probably know her from when Chance the Rapper was on SNL. She was the one singing the background vocals on Same Drugs back in 2016. And she came out with her debut album, which I have to go listen to now, in 2017. So that's who Yebba is, in case y'all were like, if you were like me and you didn't know, maybe you knew. I
didn't know her. Yeah. At least I got a new artist to listen to out of this album. She's actually really cool. I wouldn't call her a feature because, like you said, that song was pretty much her own, but it caught my attention for sure.
Absolutely. I was like, ooh, what's going on? I feel like that was the deepest track.
It was like the most growth I saw on the whole album.
Do more of that. Do more stuff with Yebba.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, one thing. I know we said we don't want to compare the albums too much, but the Kid Cudi feature was lukewarm to me.
It was.
If I had to say whose Kid Cudi feature was better, Moon on Donda way outperforms or utilizes Miss Cudi better than whatever this song is. I'm assuming the acronym is I Miss You Too. It's IMY2.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
but it's great that they reconciled.
It is. It was cool to see, but I'll still be wishing for more. It'd be cool to see them work again in the future.
Yeah, you never know, because we're talking about people who are beefing with each other.
Yeah.
So it could have been some pettiness, could have been, him throwing Cudi on at the end, and then you don't have as much time to really let your creative juices and collaboration come out because you got two highly creative people. So we expected more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this wasn't a feature. I can't even say the name of the song, but she was featured if you listen to the lyrics. And it wasn't until I listened to it probably the third time. Plus, folks made TikToks about this song. Let me see, what track number is it? It's track number 20, I believe. Hopefully I got that right. It's called, I'm not gonna say the word, but I'm gonna say it so you know what the name of the song is. It's called Effing Fans. And if you listen closely to the lyrics, allegedly, he's talking about Robin Fenty, known as Rihanna.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that at all.
Go back and listen to it.
I'll have to
check out some TikToks about it, because it was like, oh, I had to lock the door in Vegas. I'm sure you were upset when you heard I was the dad. The giveaway line, and I'm not quoting it exactly the way it said, is when he was saying how he's effing fans when everyone in the world wanted you. So like, who else is he talking about?
That's an interesting, wow. I didn't realize that it changes a lot, especially because that song is I think it's the second to last song on the album. It's almost like a last minute, I have something else to say without name dropping exactly.
Yeah. I was like, what? Let me go back and listen to this. How did I miss that? And I think because kind of what you were saying about, for a number of reasons, even if you take Donda out of the equation, a lot of us big Drake fans did expect to see more growth artistically. Yeah. So I think one of the reasons I didn't pick up on the lyrics to that song is there was nothing, that was probably one of the most boring songs, not as far as lyrical content, but just the composition and his flow was just kind of like, and so you kind of drift off, at least I did. So that's why I totally missed the alleged Rihanna references. So
I agree, yeah. One of the few songs I did feel that showcased his growth as a rapper, like as a performer in that sense, was No Friends in the Industry.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you for reminding me. I can't even see it, but I know I put it in my notes. So here's the thing. People were, of course, memeing it and like talking. They're like, oh, he said he has no friends in the industry and he has like 30 people on his album. I listened to this song, not even in preparation for this conversation, just me listening to songs I like. One of my favorite songs by Drake is The Ride. And I feel like if you don't understand what he's saying about no friends in the industry, and you're comparing like, oh, he's saying no friends in the industry, but look at all these features, then you need to go back and listen to the ride. I'm not gonna say more than that. You want to talk about it on my Twitter, we can talk about it, but I'm not gonna say more than that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was an interesting song to put on the album. Again, like we were talking about earlier, Drake's kind of taken on that role of the misunderstood, the misfit. We were talking about he's a Scorpio. It's like in his nature to be the darker one.
Yes.
And he kind of embraced that with this song. And his rapping, like I was saying earlier, really leveled up with this song. This is what I wanted to hear from the album. And it was refreshing to hear it because again, it was like, I think that song's towards the middle. So it was like kind of slowing down for me. And I was kind of expecting more. That was a super cool song to listen to. And it was one of the few that I was like, this was worth the wait of this album.
I agree, but I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
The song I felt like was worth the album.
Uh-huh.
Woo, where is it? It's 7 a.m.
Oh.
on Bridal Path. He went crazy. And I know that whole song was directed at Kanye. And I think some people who know me might scratch their heads and say, like, you're the biggest Kanye fan on the planet. What are you talking about? I'm a hip hop fan first and foremost. So when somebody just brings it, even if it's at my favorite artist, you did it. Yeah. He was talking so much smack. That's what I love to see. I can't say the word I want to say, but smack talking. I did write down one part because your ear goes there. I mean, the whole song is flawless from beginning to end, A+. But he said they sing them, I can't even say that word. They sing them, it's like folk songs, kumbaya, boombaye, which is basically like kill yay, like I've surpassed you. We're not on the same level. He even says something, I think, in another song where he's like, we haven't been seeing eye to eye in a long time. So that's his saying, I'm beyond you. Mm. But there's a lot of other stuff said in that song. But yeah, that song was literally perfection. Like that song made the album listen worth it, because there were times, at least on the first listen, like now that I've listened to it a handful of times and I'll continue to listen to it, I don't feel like I did at first, but I felt like at times I was kind of waiting for the next song or waiting for the song to end. Yeah. And that's because I did expect more, like you said, growth, or just you don't even have to say growth, right? Just experimentation. Because I feel like Drake always gave us that. Like nobody expected God's plan, for example. Nobody expected, I can't remember the song now. We're going home, and he was singing mostly on that song. Like perfect song, perfect visual. We'll see where I end up in a couple months. But I will say I went back and just listened to all my favorite Drake songs, and I felt better. Don't kill me, diehard Drake fans. I felt better listening to most of his older stuff than I did going back and listening to this, even though there's some bangers. I felt like, just to kind of, I'll close out my part anyway on CLB, and then you can say whatever you feel. I felt like he opened the album perfectly. It was a very strong entrance with a great sample of a song that I listen to all the time by Masego. But if you listen to that song from the midpoint to the end, he's very open, which is hard for a Scorpio who has a Cancer moon to be vulnerable emotionally, and he's hurting, which is interesting because he spends the rest of the album poo-pooing relationships. Yeah. I don't even remember what song, but there's a song where he's like, if I return the feelings, my art suffers. And he even said on Scorpio, like, married people are miserable. Why would I do that? But then he talks about his soulmate is somewhere out there. So I'm like, what is going on? What's going on, Aubrey?
Going back to the opening again, Masego, I think he was actually he helped produce the song too, which is great. I love his sound, but that's what I would have loved to hear for the rest of the album, more of that like more honesty, more raw emotion, which, like you said, isn't necessarily Drake's strong suit. But that's what would have made this album so cool to listen to, is to see that change in him. And unfortunately, it wasn't carried out as well as I hoped it would. But that's not to say that there aren't some great songs in the album where you totally see that growth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final song, Without Remorse,
Mm-hmm.
or The Remorse, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was excellent. I thought it was a very, very, very strong way to close out the album. I listened to that. I double back and listen to that. Like if I hear it, I don't, stop there. I have to go back and listen to it again. So I really enjoyed The Remorse. And I felt like he opened very strong. He closed very strong. Like you said, it was kind of up and down. I feel like as a body of work, it's not his strongest, but it's still a strong album. I want to see, I just want to see more experimentation and more storytelling.
Yeah, I agree. The storytelling element is crucial, I think, to a good album as a whole. And I just didn't feel it as much as I wanted to with this album.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Over to Donda. We got a good 15 or so minutes left. I'm not going to go through every track.
Because there's way too many, in my opinion.
So I'm going to start by saying this. Towards the end of the album, there's 4 songs that are part 2s. And with the exception of Jail, and that's only because I was curious to hear the baby's verse. And, I don't know what the production looks like as to why the baby's verse couldn't be on the same track with Jay-Z. There may be other things or other considerations there. But all the other part 2s were not necessary. So all those can be thrown out. Donda Chant, shout out to Selena Johnson. I love Selena Johnson. She's from Chicago, has a ridiculously strong, amazing voice, a person that can, no shade to anybody else, truly sing, whether it's accompanied by music or, whatever, she can sing. So the woman's voice is just melodic. So she's not even singing on the Donda Chant. She's just saying Donda. There's theories out there about, what the cadence means. One guy even showed that Donda has the exact same cadence as Jail. So there's a lot you could probably come up with your own theories just off of that, but they do have the same cadence if you put the tracks on top of each other. There was a rumor that the 58 times she says the name, it represents Donda West's last heartbeats. People have said it's true. People said it's not true. I don't know. But given, regardless of what you think of the album, given what he's always said about his mother, even when she was, more so when she was alive, like you see the back and forth between them. You see her supporting him and him supporting her. We have no doubt what his mom means to him in his life.
Yeah, I agree. He could have so easily just labeled this album Donda and not put the work in to reflect that. And I think he did, not just in this album, but I mean, Kanye's been his mom's biggest fan and like his mom's biggest love his whole life. Like, and it was cool to see stuff like that, like Donda. Kanye is known for his sonic ability. He has an amazing producer, as we were talking about earlier. There was no one like him. And to see him make art in memory of his mom was pretty amazing. And regardless of what you think of, the album or anything, seeing the love he has for his mom, I think stands alone, regardless about your opinion on the songs or anything. I think it was refreshing to see that emotional side again after, because I listened to first Donda since it came out first and then CLB. And since CLB had left me a little bit disappointed with the emotion, I went back to Donda and it sounded a lot more like, wow, this is what I was expecting out of the 2 albums.
That's interesting what you said about the emotion, because it didn't turn into a huge Twitter topic, but I did see quite a few back and forth about folks felt like CLB didn't kind of come to terms with where we are as a society. We're still going through the pandemic. As a result of the pandemic, a lot has changed for people personally. A lot of us have taken stock of what's important in life. So it's interesting you say that, because I wonder how much of that has to do with kind of where we are in the world and as a society.
It definitely been a time where we've had to face a lot of problems that we've been ignoring. I think like the whole world has with our health and our lives and how we want to live our life. And I think the album reflects that in Kanye as well. It's a sad album at a lot of parts. And Kanye's had a lot of mental health problems the past 2 years, his divorce, his mother's death. These are all very sad events that were kind of the main themes of the album. And as sad as they are, it was really nice to hear them and hear him work through them and make art out of them.
Absolutely.
And again, relatable, and that not necessarily in the exact moments, but relatable in the sense of we've all had to deal with something like that this year. So it was cool to see an artist like Kanye tackle that.
Yeah, and I mean, there were folks complaining that this was a clean album. I don't know what to make of that because his last album was a gospel album, and the album before that was a gospel album. So I don't know what folks were expecting, but I do think it's interesting when an artist commits to not using profanity. You think about Will Smith, you think about someone we just highlighted recently, Young MC. Yep. You think about the father of all that, Curtis Blow. And there's others. And there's even Christian hip hop artists that aren't as well known. So I think that's interesting that you can actually get folks like Travis Scott, Baby Keem, Jay-Z, Lil Yachty, Lil Durk, Digital Nas, Kid Cudi, Chris Brown, Roddy Ricch to say, oh, so this is going to still be somewhat mostly of a gospel album. Okay, I'm still going to come. And you elevate these people. People are still talking about Fivio Foreigns.
Oh, yeah.
Like he went off.
That was the best feature in my opinion, actually.
Yeah, and even Travis, it wasn't so much that he rapped his butt off or whatever, but like his passion. If you listen to Travis Scott rapping on Praise God, which is definitely in my top 5.
Yeah, I agree.
That I repeat. And Baby Keem's on there too. Baby Keem has some pretty saucy lyrics if you're not familiar with him, and he's on a song called Praise God. Lil Durk, who may have been offended by Kanye playing the GD anthem at the Chicago listening party. I was in attendance there with my son, and I noticed it, and other people have noticed that Lil Durk kind of went immediately to promoting Certified Lover Boy after Kanye played the GD anthem. For those of you who, thank God if you're not up on gang culture here in Chicago, those are 2 different sets from where Durk comes from versus the GD. So I'm not going to go too far down that, but I did notice that. I thought that was interesting. But Lil Durk, his verse on Jonah seemed extremely heartfelt. And it just seemed like you said, there was a lot of emotion from these artists that were featured. And for almost all the ones that were featured, they elevated their game. Like I didn't even recognize Lil Yachty's voice at first.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you take nothing else away from Donda, except for the fact that it's still charting everywhere, it's not charting higher than Certified Lover Boy, but it's still charting everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I'm talking about like 100 countries or something crazy like that, as well as the gospel charts, which I don't typically keep up with, but I see the stats being thrown out there. So real quick, I'm just gonna say Jail, because I'm crazy and I just love anything with a guitar. I'm a huge Prince fan.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of when 2 genres get put together and it works. I was just having a conversation with this Bad Bunny, a Puerto Rican reggaeton artist. He has a song in his album Yo Hago Lo Que Me Da La Gana towards the very end that mixes rock and reggaeton and like trap almost so perfectly. One of my favorite things ever is just mixing sounds that wouldn't typically work and they sound so cool. And Jail, the guitar, the rock influence was so awesome to hear, especially at the beginning of the album.
Absolutely. And then even folks that are like Drake fans, I think almost everybody loves Off the Grid. That's just a song to go crazy to, whether you're walking, working out, driving, just nodding your head. It's crazy. Like all the different, like you said, all the different sounds that's going on and Off the Grid. I have to look and see the whole production team, or was it just Kanye that produced that? I don't know. But I love that. I love it. It takes me somewhere. and then you put in Playboy Cardi's voice. I mean, I was upset that I love Young Thug's feature on Remote Control. However, I was upset and still a little salty that Cudi was taken off. I felt like he was great on Remote Control, so I was disappointed that he was taken off for that. And Hurricane.
Yeah, The Weeknd was incredible.
Come on, people. Are you serious right now?
This is one of the few songs I don't see people debating over. Like, the Hurricane was outstanding.
And Lil Baby been killing it. Every feature he's had. I mean, Lil Baby is eating really good.
Yeah, he is.
Say his name. I don't know. Trying to see. 24. I know a lot of people probably didn't gravitate. I like that song. I'm from Chicago. Gospel is in your DNA if you're a Black person from the South side of Chicago or even the West side of Chicago. So I don't know about Jesus Lord. Like, I like the chorus, but I don't really understand what some of the lyrics from Jay Electronica were trying to say. So yeah, I don't know about that. Come to Life was a nice addition. I can't remember the song now, but the one with Lauryn Hill, that was a nice late addition.
Believe What I Say, yeah.
Thank you. Believe What I Say. Lauryn Hill, you doing good too, because she was featured on Nas King's Disease 2.
Yeah.
And she killed it.
Yeah.
I know we weren't supposed to be talking about Nas, but if you haven't listened to King's Disease 2 and you're a hip hop fan, I don't know what to tell you, because I like that album way better than the first King's Disease. And then this, and it's not just because these are two great artists, but this whole beef thing overshadowed everything that's going on. And Conway the Machine, other folks have dropped stuff that you should be listening to. Anywho, what else? No Child Left Behind. We heard that when Sha'Carri Richardson did the commercial, and it's still just as beautiful as the first time I heard it. You can't help but sing along, I think, if you hear that song.
Yeah, that commercial was, I think, one of the I think the first song I heard off the album was from that commercial. I want to say, and it totally got me excited for the album. That was incredible.
Are there any other songs that you like listen to more frequently, or you just feel like was a really great song?
No, I really did like the Lauryn Hill feature we were talking about earlier. It had a cool like bass in the background that I assume was Kanye's work in like mixing the song. Because I felt like it fit Lauryn Hill's theme very well, like talking to society, having a message, but not letting the melody of the song get too serious, which is kind of what Kanye did, which I thought was cool to honor Lauryn Hill like that.
Yeah, we have like 2 minutes. So really quickly, I'm going to say I love Heaven and Hell. I just think the cadence, the choir, it's a lot of elements I wouldn't expect in one song. And the song Pure Souls, kind of like 7 a.m. on Bridal Path, that's where Kanye was coming at Drake. And he said, always had mob ties, stood on my 6 points, how could I not rise? That was the lines that stood out to me. And I think, how can we not forget, we talked about this a little bit earlier, that in the midst of all this, Mr. Drake, who said years ago in one of his interviews that he did during his Scorpion run, that it's Kanye's problem. He don't have a beef with him, so he can't solve his problem. You say that, and then you leak a Kanye song. So the Scorpio Petty is risen again. I don't know what you want us to believe here, Mr. Graham.
He directly got involved in what he claimed he had no business in.
My last thought is, regardless of which album you gravitate towards now, most of us are fans of both of these guys. And I feel like if you don't gravitate to this album right now, you're going to have, those 5 songs that you end up playing over and over again. And a few months from now, you may just be listening to both albums equally.
I agree. I think it was kind of weird to focus so much on the feud between them and comparing the two artists. These are so separate, like the albums are so separate from each other that I feel like there's standalones in both of them. There's songs I don't like in both of them. And there's songs that I'll continue to go back to years from now in both of them. And exactly what you said, these are both incredible artists who exist outside of these albums and who will have work far, like forever from now, that we can always go back to. And it was cool to see a new piece of work from them, but I definitely will still like both. This was not like the grand finale for either of them that people made it out to be, but it was fun to talk about them like this.
Yes, you gave me a lot to think about. So I will be going back and watching this. Thank you to everyone who signed up for the premiere and all our new subscribers. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're following us on social, and make sure you definitely following Priscilla's wonderful, amazing writing for Fresh Artist Fridays. We feature a new artist every Friday. Thank you, and everyone, we will talk to you next time.
Yes. Bye.